Good morning and bright suns, everybody. It's Eric Walker for All for Sci-Fi, and this is yet another episode of The Mandalorian. This is episode 5, Gunslinger, which we're going to talk about today. And as always, here at All for Sci-Fi, the first part of this review is going to be spoiler-free. We're not going to talk about any spoilers, so you could watch and also get our rating of this episode. And then I will give you warnings. You might see a title below here on the side here where my hand's pointing. You might see a title that comes up, spoilers. And at that point, that's when I'm going to go ahead and start talking and do a breakdown and a reaction of The Mandalorian Episode 5, Gunslinger. Okay, so again, The Mandalorian, wow. It's the best show, the very best show ever on television. It beats everything else out by a million miles. Now, this particular episode, I will have to admit, it is given a lot of lip service to fans based on the locations and a lot of callbacks to A New Hope. So that will either excite fans or it might actually get a few people upset. But let me go ahead and talk about our rating system. On All for Sci-Fi, we have a rating system of 0 to 5 stars. If it's 3 or below, you don't have to go. And that's talking about the movie theater. In this case, since it's streaming, if it's 3 or below, you don't have to stream it on Disney+. The Mandalorian, let me see, what am I going to give you on this episode? Okay, I think it deserves more than 4 stars, so I'm going to give it 4.25 stars. But you're not quite as good as the other episodes. I would say it's probably my second least favorite out of all 5 episodes. Episode 2 I had a lot of problems with. I love the episode, but it had a lot of continuity errors, so I had problems with it. But episode 5 is probably my next least favorite. Although, I will tell you, the callbacks are glorious. Were just amazing, the callbacks. So, I'm going to go ahead and get into a reaction of today's show, and I'm going to go ahead and break it down for you guys. So at this point in the game, you'll probably see that title that says spoilers. So if you haven't seen this episode 5, go ahead and hit the pause button and come back and watch the rest of this review later. Okay, so episode 5, Gunslinger, starts off kind of where they seem to be going in order. They're not doing any time jumps. It kind of takes place, it starts where the last one left off. And you have the Mandalorian, of course, with the kid inside the Razor Crest, and they're in a big shootout. They're being followed and pursued by, I assume it's another bounty hunter, because the bounty hunter is saying, give up and maybe I'll let you live. Give me the kid. And so there's this big, huge, really cool firefight in space. And at one point, he shoots the Razor Crest many, many, many times, and the baby's, of course, shooken up by all this, and I almost want to cry for this baby, this kid. And so the bounty hunter says to him, "I could take you in, warm or cold," and that sets the Mando off. So he does some quick maneuvers, and it does that famous maneuver where they go behind the craft that's pursuing them, and then right after he says that line, he shoots them and says, "That's my line." Don't say the Mandalorian's lines ever, otherwise he'll blow up your ship, is what we get out of that. So then we see, after he gets out of that, we see the Razor Crest limping towards this planet, and here we go. It's Tatooine, because he doesn't say it's Tatooine, but he calls the spaceport, and it says Mos Eisley Spaceport. And he asked for clearance to land. So here we are on Mos Eisley. Hey guys, we're in A New Hope territory. So this is a big callback to A New Hope, where the Mandalorian is on Tatooine, and he barely makes it and lands. And then these droids, these really neat, interesting droids come out. Of course, more callbacks. This lady, who's I guess it's her hangar that he's at. Really interesting character. She kind of reminded me a little bit of Danny DeVito's wife. Remember Rhea Perlman? She kind of reminded me of that, but that's not who it is. But she kind of looks like that and has that same kind of energy as Rhea Perlman. So, he ends up putting the baby, asleep in its crib, and he is talking to the woman, and he needs to find work to pay for all the repairs. He tells the lady he'll find a way to pay for the repairs. He's going to go look for work, but he tells her again he has a problem with droids. The Mandalorian does not like droids. Don't let droids work on my ship. So he leaves, and he goes into, of course, the very famous cantina. And what is interesting is now the cantina has the bartender is a droid. And if you remember, in A New Hope, droids weren't allowed inside this cantina. So that's kind of like, okay, I guess they changed their rules now in the future. So he ends up asking the bartender if there's any work, and the bartender says the guild isn't out that far. There is no work here. And then behind him, I think it might be the same seat that Han Solo and the Wookiee were in. There is a really young bounty hunter there, and he gets the Mandalorian's attention. He brings them over, and he asks the Mandalorian for help with this bounty that he has. So he puts his bounty puck up, and guess who the bounty is for? It's for Ming-Na Wen's character. So the Mandalorian tells the bounty hunter, look, this woman is connected. She will eat you up, basically, spit you out. And even if she doesn't do that, you have no chance catching this bounty. She's also well connected with all the crime syndicates, including the Hutts are mentioned here, which is awesome. And so he ends up convincing the Mandalorian to help him. Like he's the only hope for this kid. And the kid it's his first bounty, and he wants to get into the guild, and getting this bounty will get him into the guild. So, and he works out a trade and tells the Mandalorian, I'll give you the entire bounty, just help me do it. So he doesn't even care about the money. He doesn't care about getting paid. He just wants to get in the guild. And he has to, of course, bring this bounty to do that, bring this bounty in. So he tells the kid, I'm saying a kid again, because we said the kid for Yoda, but this is a younger young man who's trying to get into the bounty. I forgot the character's name, but he tells them to get 2 speeder bikes and meet him back. So in the meantime, we go back to where the Razor Crest is in the hangar bay. I think it was Bay 35. I wonder if that's a callback to somebody let me know in the comments. Because everything seems to be on this show. So suddenly, they're kind of spooked. The Rhea Perlman type of character spooked because, something moves inside the ship. And so they're all afraid. And then Baby Yoda, the kid, comes out. And she picks up the baby and says, why would anybody leave this poor little baby here? And she takes a shining to the kid, Baby Yoda. And anyway, so when the Mandalorian does come back, she doesn't chew him out, but she kind of says, why would you leave a baby here alone? And he tells her, I have some work, so we're going to be able to pay for this stuff. So the younger bounty hunter shows up with the speeder bikes. They take off, going after the bounty. Ming-Na Wen's character, I don't know the name. Forgive me, but I'm trying to get this review up, guys, and this reaction. So I don't know remember the name of the character, but I'm sure everybody's going to let me know in the comments. Okay, so they take off, and as they're going towards the bounty, they stop, and they could see with the bounty hunter's binoculars, they could see in the distance some Tusken Raiders. So we got Tusken Raiders, guys! Wow! And a dewback, of course, and so the Mandalorian stops, and the bounty hunter is saying, why are you stopping? And look, and then suddenly there's other Tusken Raiders right there, because you know how they are. They're very stealth. And so the Mandalorian has to negotiate with these Tusken Raiders for passage, basically. And he basically saves their skin, and he grabs the binoculars, which are the bounty hunter says, those are brand new, and he gives them to the Tusken Raiders so that they could pass without them being bothered. So they go, the Tusken Raiders let them go, and they get further into the desert, and they spot a dewback, and the dewback has another bounty hunter. At first we don't know if it's Ming-Na Wen's character that they're searching for, but we find out that it's another bounty hunter that she killed, and it's tied to the dewback. So it just goes to show you that her character is a very lethal assassin, Ming-Na Wen's character. So then she starts firing on them, so they have to hide, and they wait until it's dark and they have the cover of night to go ahead and go after her. He says, well, that's going to be our only hope, is we'll use these charges to blind her as we get closer, and if we're lucky, we won't be killed in the process. That's how lethal she is. So they wait until the cover of nightfall, then they head off towards her, and they do these charges to blind her so she can't see as they're getting closer. And at one point, she's focusing on the Mandalorian. She knows that's the one she's a lethal assassin. She knows that's the Mandalorian's the one she needs to look out for. So she keeps shooting and firing at him, and that allows the younger bounty hunter to get up behind her. And of course, she starts just kicking the crap out of this young kid bounty hunter, totally almost about ready to kill the dude. And then the Mandalorian finally gets up after being shot. His Beskar still saved him, and he gets up and they're able to capture and get the bounty. And the Mandalorian makes her put handcuffs on, and of course in the process, the Mandalorian speeder was destroyed, so there's only one speeder. So the Mandalorian says, well, they have that dewback we could ride. So he tells the young bounty hunter to go get the dewback. He says, no, wait a minute. Then you're going to take off with my bounty, and I'm going to get nothing. So the Mandalorian has to go back further and get the dewback and come back. And in the meantime, while they're doing that, the young bounty hunter has this scene and whole conversation with Ming-Na Wen's character, and she tells this young bounty hunter that he might be the Mandalorian that's everybody's talking about, that shot up the guild and took off with this bounty who some say is a child. And she basically almost convinces him, that Mandalorian's worth a lot more than me. They're looking for him and that child that he took the bounty. And so when the Mando does show up, he basically, by the time he shows up, they're gone. They leave. So now the bounty hunter has to go by himself, trek all the way back to Spaceport 35, and he's waiting there for him. And before he leaves, sorry, I forgot this point. Before he leaves, he shoots Ming-Na Wen, and we don't know if she's dead, but he shoots her and says, "You're right, I should go after him." So he leaves her in the desert, shot up. She might be dead. So when the Mandalorian shows up, he sees her, her lifeless body. She might be dead, she might not be, but he sees her laying on the ground, so he probably assumes she's been killed. So that's when he goes back to the spaceport. They ended up, the bounty hunter is holding the baby and that Rhea Perlman's character hostage. And the bounty hunter is so inexperienced that it just takes a few seconds for him to basically shoot him and knock him out. And while he's laying on the ground, the bounty hunter, the Mandalorian, while the bounty hunter is laying on the ground, the Mandalorian goes over and grabs all his money and all his credits, and he gives all the money and credits to the lady for fixing his ship. Says, "Will this be enough?" So she says, "Sure." So he ends up leaving. He ends up paying her with the money that he stole from this young kid bounty hunter. So he pays her, and then they leave. They get on the ship, and she says the ship's good enough now, and so they get up and they leave. And we see them fly off Tatooine, and then do you think the episode's going to end? And then it suddenly goes back to Ming-Na Wen's character, the lethal assassin, her on the ground, and then you see this figure walk up and kneel before her. You don't see who it is, Dave Filoni, you are awesome. You left us a cliffhanger. We don't know who it is. We can't wait to see who it is on episode 6 next week. And we can't wait for more episodes of The Mandalorian. So I'm going to give The Mandalorian 4.25 stars, Dave. By the way, it's important to note that this episode is the first episode that was totally written by Dave Filoni. And Dave Filoni also directed this, like he directed the very first episode. So way to go, Dave Filoni. 4.25 stars. Thank you for all the callbacks and the love to what we all cherish about Star Wars. We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for this watching this reaction video for episode 5 of The Mandalorian Gunslinger. And, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe and hit a thumbs up. We appreciate all the likes and all the love. And make sure you subscribe below and hit the thumbs up. That way, you're notified every time we upload a new video. And we're going to be doing lots of videos the rest of this year, including when we go to Dallas here in a few weeks for the premiere of The Rise of Skywalker. We're going to be actually in Dallas at Order 66 Toys, and also a lot of Star Wars actors like myself, Mike Quinn, who plays Nien Nunb in The Rise of Skywalker, and he also plays a bunch of other characters, as well as Nien Nunb in the new ride at Walt Disney World, The Rise of the Resistance that just opened. He plays Nien Numb's character there. Mike Quinn's going to be with us. And we're all going to go watch The Rise of Skywalker together. Mike Quinn, myself, Mace Tawani, Mark Dodson, who played Teak in the second Ewok movie. And he also was Salacious Crumb, the voice of Salacious Crumb. Mark Dodson's going to be there. Felix Sela, who was Cousin It, and also the hang glider Ewok in Return of the Jedi. Who else? Stephen Constantino, who played a Gamorrean guard in Return of the Jedi. It's going to be a great time. So, again, I can't speak. Sorry. Please hit subscribe below, and if you would like to leave us any comments, if you have any suggestions, they're welcome. But again, I'm Eric Walker for All for Sci-Fi. Thank you for joining me, and as they say at Galaxy's Edge, at Walt Disney World and Disneyland, till the spires. May the Force be with you all.